All right, welcome to the second episode of my Hollow City breakdown. So this episode has a bit more structure than the first one, thankfully, because I'll be talking about the ambience systems and the intensity event system, which I kind of need to talk about the scare trigger system as well for that. And then I'll also have to talk about the insane mess of parameters I had to make to enable all of this. So there are a lot of ambiences in this game. These are all of the ambiences. These three are active ambiences, as I call them, which are basically ambiences that have a distinct physical location in the game. So the fire, steam vents, and streetlight buzz are obviously fire, like here, and the flickering streetlights, and then the steam vents. The rest, these will be fun to talk about in their creation, but otherwise they're kind of boring in the game, I think, because these are the ones that really create the atmosphere. These are like the atmospheric ambiences that don't have a real noticeable origin in the world. Although I'm about to talk about where their actual origins in the world are. So, probably the most oddball out of them is the ominous rumble, which, let's see if I can play it. Yeah. So, the ominous rumble, you will probably only hear quite late into the game. You might really start hearing it once you get like about here, something like that. But it comes from the end of the game. And I can actually show. There is the origin of the ominous rumble. And it is, does it have a script? Yeah. So this script just takes the position of that ominous rumble and the player, and then sets the distance to end parameter equal to the distance between those two. So distance to end. So you can't actually hear it at all until you are within 60 units of it, which I think are meters. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think they're meters. Then it fades up to be at 0 at 40 till the end, and then there is a low pass filter on it as well. So you really only start hearing it like right towards the end. So other than that one, so that one you can't hear for most of the game. The other ones you can hear for most of the game, or they kind of come in and out and stuff like that. So the subway, I did originally make this object for the subway to use with the event position confiner script, but I'm wondering if maybe the event position confiner is unique to the 301 certification or the Wise Adventure game, because it doesn't exist. You can't add it. It doesn't seem anyway like the event position confiner is part of the Wise integration. So what I ended up doing instead was just using large mode ambient and then placing these 5 points here. Wind, I also used large mode ambient for. I put the points sort of in the different like intersections, so it would make sense that it would be windier in areas where you're not surrounded by buildings. And then other than that, you can hear other than that, the rest of these have specific points of origin. They each have a very large attenuation sphere, like very large. So you can probably hear this ambient generator at every point in the world, but the attenuation sphere is set up so while you are within like 10 units of it, you can hear it more. So I didn't want it to just be like they're all at the same level all the time. So so that's where chugging comes from. Insects, fan, reverb chorus, hollow noise, buzz, slamming. And that's how it was for the majority of production. But later on, I decided I wanted it to be a bit more balanced. Just so, I don't know. I just wanted it to be more balanced for whatever reason. So what I did was I made copies of each of those and moved them to the opposite side of the world, and then kind of tried to put them on the opposite side of sort of an imaginary midpoint in the world, like this. Kind of put them at a diagonal from each other. So here's chugging, there's the fan, there's the fan, there's the reverb chorus, and so on. And that seemed to work pretty well, so I just stuck with that. So each of these ambiences has a bunch of parameters, or a bunch of RTPCs created for and mapped to them. Most of them have the same. There are a couple that have an extra one or one less. I think actually maybe I went through and yeah, like Ominous Rumble doesn't have boost. But each of these, I think boosts that like when boost is at 0, it's 0 dB. When it's at 100, it's plus 6 dB, either plus 6 or plus 9. EQ turns the EQ on or off. High pass just directly controls the high pass. Low pass directly controls the low pass. Pitch is 0 when it's at 50. When it's at 0 is minus 1200, and when it's at 100 it is plus 1200. And then volume, when it's at 0 it's silent, and when it's at 100 it is 0 dB. By which I mean, so like this is minus 14 dB. So when that volume parameter is at 100, it'll be at minus 14. So it's like a 0 dB offset. So I have a bunch of these parameters made for each of the ambiances, and then a bunch of events made to control each of those parameters. So boost brings it up either 6 or 9 dB. Let me see. Six dB. So the boost event will bring the volume of that ambience up by 6 decibels for 10 to 20 seconds. EQ off will turn the EQ off for 5 to 20 seconds. Muffled will set the low pass filter to 70 for 5 to 20 seconds. Pitch down will set the pitch to minus 1200 for 5 to 20 seconds. Pitch up will set it to 1200 for 5 to 20 seconds. And everything but blank muffled will set the low pass filter of all of the other ambience containers to 70 for 5 to 20 seconds individually, which isn't originally how I wanted it to work. I had originally envisioned that it would be after 5 to 20 seconds everything would come back in. That ended up not really working. Looking back on it, what I probably could have done is made an event to turn the low pass filters of everything to 0. Actually, that wouldn't have been too bad, because I wouldn't have even needed to have made... I was thinking I would need to make separate events for each one. So like for buzz, set everything but buzz, the low pass filter to 0. But buzz, I think anyway, I think the low pass should be set to 0 anyway. So actually, yeah, that wouldn't have been too bad, but whatever. I think it actually kind of worked out well, because having it like this, they each fade in independently. And it is a fade. I think all of these parameters have slew rates. I think most of them are 50 units per second. Some are 25, maybe. I'm not sure. There's a lot of parameters here, so I don't remember exactly what I set for all of them. But I know a lot of them are like 50 units per second, which would mean not these ones, but a lot of these that set it to 100 or something would take 2 seconds. Actually, with the pitch, oh, I set that to 50 as well. It would make sense for me to set that to 25, because the pitch only ever moves 50. It goes from 50 to 100 and back, or 50 to 0 and back. So maybe I should have set those to 25 to keep it still make it still have a 2-second fade, but whatever. So then there are a couple other things that, well, actually, before I get into that, I'll get into the intensity event system. And before I do that, I should probably talk about the scare system. So I made a bunch of these quote-unquote scares, which are these. Just intended to be sort of harsh, startling sounds. Which there is one funny thing with them. There's this one. And while I was testing, I kept hearing this sound. And it was kind of driving me crazy. Like, why do I hear this sound so much? This is set to shuffle, so I shouldn't hear them more than once until I've heard all of them. It's like, what is going on? So then I happened to just like look through the source files for them. I noticed, oh, this one has 2, and this second half is this. And then this one has 3, and these 2 are that, and this one has 4, and those 3 are that, and that. And so that's why I was hearing this one over and over and over and over. Best bet is I messed the regions up in Reaper somehow. I'm still not really sure how I would have done that, just based on the way that I usually make regions in Reaper, but that's pretty much the only thing that would make sense for how that happened. So yeah, there are all these random scare sounds, and there is the scare spawner. So there's this trigger here that is moving around every 3 seconds. So in start, it runs change position, and change position invokes itself after 3 seconds. So it just keeps changing position every 3 seconds. It doesn't have free reign, of course. Like, it's not gonna teleport over here. It can only move within like sort of this box, I think, something like that. It's not quite just the street. It like goes a bit off. So when the trigger, or when the player collides with it or enters the trigger, it will pick one of these random positions. So there are these 11 positions that it references. And each of these positions is itself running a script that causes it to just kind of wander around a little bit. They can't move too far, but I wanted them to not be just completely static. And so when the player enters that trigger, it randomly picks one of these and then posts the event to play this random container on whatever one of those random positions it chose. the other thing it does, which I'm hoping I can explain more clearly here. This is the second time I'm filming this because I feel like I didn't explain things very well. So the other thing it does is run the add intensity method from the player script. So the player is carrying around this intensity level integer at all times. And whenever one of many things happen, there are a lot of things that add intensity, but in this case, specifically talking about the random scare spawner, whenever it intersects with that, the scare spawner runs add intensity with a random value between 10 and 29, I think. So I think this is exclusive. Yeah. False 0. I'll explain that another time, I guess. Basically, something can cause it to delay if it needs, but it adds the value between 10 and 29 to the intensity level. And then if the intensity level is over 60, it will reset the intensity level and trigger this. What this does is, remember all of those events that did all these things? The player is referencing a bunch of them along with a bunch of other things. So there are stingers, which are these. So it could trigger one of those. It could, let's see. It could pitch down buzz for 5 to 20 seconds or whatever it was. It could pitch up chugging for 5 to 20 seconds or whatever. It could do any one of these things. And then I believe it also removes that. Yeah, it removes whatever event it played from that list. So it can only ever do one of them once. Oh, actually, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I guess this is where it starts getting complicated. And also, by complicated, I mean complicated for me, who is not a game designer or programmer. So the delay is just used in a couple situations where, for example, in the scripted event where, let's see, where am I? Where you come down here, walk on the blood, and then there's a stinger, and the thing walks across here. That's its own little self-contained event, and I don't really want this happening at the same time as that, because I want that to happen, and then maybe if the intensity level is over 60, then it would do this. So that's what the delay with delay and delay time is for. So if it wants a delay, then it delays it for that specified amount of time. The other thing, which I don't even know how relevant it was, but it was just kind of a safety valve kind of thing, that I didn't want a bunch of these things all triggering at once. I think it would be very unlikely for that to happen, but I don't even know. Like maybe, I don't know. Probably something could happen in a way such that multiple of these would be triggered. Well, I guess it's not even that crazy because obviously, like, some of these things last for 5 to 20 seconds. So in 20 seconds, a fair amount of stuff could happen, especially if it's already doing it with a delay. And during that delay, maybe the scare trigger teleports on top of the player and adds a bunch of intensity or something like that. Just things could happen such that it would try doing multiple of these at once. I didn't really want that because, for example, let's say the first one posted everything but Buzz muffled. So everything else gets muffled, and then the second one just randomly muffles Buzz as well. Or, so then, everything would be muffled, and I didn't really want that. Or it could do everything but Buzz muffled, and then do chugging pitch up. It's like, well, you're not going to hear that at all because the chugging is muffled. So for things like that, I wanted to protect against multiple of them happening at the same time. So I faced my fears and worked with callbacks, which when I did the Wise 301 course, at which time I had I learned a bit of C# before doing the course, but I wasn't at all familiar with Unity scripting with C#. And I wasn't very familiar with Unity either. I had just done, I think the Game Maker's Toolkit intro to Unity or something like that. I think that was the only thing I had done up to that point with Unity. So that the Wise 301 course really overwhelmed me the first time I did it because it was just so, before that point I was just working with Sound and Wise, but now I'm working with Sound, Wise, Unity, and C#. It was a big intimidating jump. And I remember callbacks being especially intimidating. I still don't entirely understand them. For example, I don't know why the callback function needs to have these. I don't know what you do with these. I even tried putting them in the debug log to see like what they were. I don't know. But when I was trying to figure out this problem of, I don't want it triggering multiple of these events at once, I was like, well, I know a callback type is end of event, or I figured there probably was one anyway. It's like, I could probably use a callback to basically track whether or not one of those events was already running. So in the game manager, there is a can play event bool that when where is it? Oh, did I not even... Oh, did I actually mess it up? Did I never set... Oh my goodness. Did I seriously? So... Well, that's embarrassing if so. The intention was that bool in the game manager handles whether or not one of these can be posted. If it can, then it posts that random event, removes it from the list, and it posts it with a callback to, yeah, I seriously did. Oh my word. I think I seriously did. So I think that was missing the whole time. Oh man, that sucks. Well, anyway. So if that is true, it sets it to false, posts the event with a callback for a function that will set it to true again, and then removes that event from the list. And if it can't, if can play event is false, then it just doesn't. And yeah, all that does is just set that back to true. Oh my word, that's so dumb that I missed that. Okay, anyway, I need to get over that. Oh, that's really dumb though. Anyway, so that's the add intensity. Oh yeah, so I guess I can go over the rest of all of these events that can be triggered by that. So there's the stingers. There are the ambience parameter things where it pitches something up, pitches something down, muffles it, whatever. There are also a bunch of global events, or global for the ambience, rather. Flicker, HQLQ, short, long, and medium. Mute the ambience. I don't think I ended up using that, but I'm not sure. I might have actually. Quiet ambience. Quiet ambience 8 seconds I think was for a specific event, so I don't think that's in that list. And then set high quality, low quality to 100 for 10 to 20 seconds, which actually it isn't. It's 8 to 13 seconds or 3 to 13 seconds, but slamming intensity. So the slamming intensity parameter, a number of these were made before I went through and made all of these individualized game syncs or RTPCs for everything. So before that, I had made like these individual RTPCs to do specific things that later on I could have just used the more standardized parameters, but I just kept these around. So that one, I believe slamming intensity increases the pitch and decreases the low pass on slamming. Then I still can't get over that I forgot that. That's so bad. What else? There are also, I think, some music effects. Yeah. So, I have effects on the different music containers, which I'll have to cover this in a whole separate video for like the music system, but um, gameplay music consists of these 4 segments, each of which contains 2 tracks with a bunch of random subtracks, and each of these has I guess only this one, not the feedback, just the stretch, has these effects on it with parameters, wet and dry and decay time, and feedback and wet and dry. So there are events that ramp up those parameters over time, and then like drop them, ignoring slew rate and stuff like that, to sort of make these big reverb and delay feedback swells and stuff like that. And then I think there's also oh yeah, there are also some LFOs on them, but there are these parameters that lower or raise them by 6 decibels. And so then there's some events that will raise this by 6 decibels and drop this by 6 decibels, or vice versa, just to add more variation to the balance of the music and stuff like that. And then there are also effects on the main bus, which, this is something odd I learned in the process of making this game, which is that if you put effects on an actor mixer container, it works in really weird ways. So like if I put so I think the specific instance that I was using it was, I had a random container inside a random container. And so the first random container is what's actually playing the sound effects. Each time you play that, it plays a random footstep sound. The random container above that loops, triggering that random container 9 times, I think. I'm not even sure. It was for something I ended up scrapping. I'm not sure why I did it like that. But anyway, the weird thing I discovered was putting effects that create a tail of some sort, like reverb or delay, will make it so like if you're looping it, it will wait to play the next thing in the loop until the tail of the first thing is completely done. And so I was losing my mind for a while, like, why why is this thing not working correctly? And then I figured out that, it's waiting until the reverb and delay or whatever it was is completely done before playing the next. It's really weird. I'm not sure why it works like that, but anyway, I put effects on the bus. So this is the bus that not everything, most things other than reverb go to. There are a couple stray things that don't, like, I think footsteps, the player footsteps go to the master bus. No, that one's main bus. What else? Maybe the UI. Yeah, the UI goes to the master bus. I think there may be a couple other things, but I'm not sure. But most things go to the main bus. And so there are a couple effects on it. Delay and reverb. And so I made a couple events here that will like crank the delay mix for a second, and then it drops it bypassing the parameter, so it just like cuts off suddenly, or just fades down like this, or there's the reverb building over time and stuff like that. And then I think one of the last things I added was this heartbeat. Here it is. And so I think that one just posts that event. Oh, yep, and here, this is what the quiet ambience event is for. It's to quiet as it brings up the heartbeat so you can hear it more. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all of. Oh, footsteps louder, footsteps quieter. Those might have also been in it. Here's the music events. Oh yeah. I think these turn on the tremolo. So I think I had parameters. Was it here? Yeah, so these LFOs, I had parameters attached to the depths. So sometimes it would turn on a tremolo on the music. I'll bring up the tremolo rate as well. Basically, there was a lot there. The amount of possible things that can happen to the audio, whether the music, the ambiences, the like sound effects, it's frankly kind of ridiculous how many possible things there are. So yeah, that's what all of these are. And again, not all of those are in here. I kind of went through and curated what ones I wanted, but a lot of them are there. So that's the intensity system. And I think I'm probably gonna call it here. Yeah. Oh, actually, one last thing I can show with the high quality, low quality thing. So not all of the ambiences work with it, but a good number of them do. Yeah, 5 of them do. So I made 2 versions of each of these ambiences. One that is high quality, which is just like the normal version, and then one that is low quality, which is I think most of them are done with a combination of some bit crushing and sample rate reduction plus good hertz lossy. And so then I have each of those in a blend container. And then the HQ, LQ balance parameter crossfades between them. So as you're listening to this, it can just sort of change the audio in a way, make it sort of unnatural and uncanny, I guess. All right, yeah, I'll call it here. I think maybe next time I will start going into the ambiences themselves, how I made them. That's probably one of my favorite parts from this. So yeah, I think I'll do that. All right, thanks for watching. Ignore my horrible mistake of forgetting to put in the single line of code that made this whole system necessary. But well, no, not really. It was really just the callbacks. But yeah. All right. See ya.